Here is a fourth argument. I think it is an often used phrase in scientific circles that things are often not what they appear to be. The recent discoveries in quantum physics seem to confirm this. Other primary school level examples would be things such as: number one, we need air in order to breathe and live, but this same air carries sound waves, protects us from solar radiation, and even carries water. Number two, light also gives life, but has many other invisible properties, only found and used in the last 100 years, most of them part of the electromagnetic spectrum. Number three, plants and flowers give pleasure to the senses of sight and smell, but they are also hiding the secret of photosynthesis. And fourthly, trees are hiding the trading of carbon dioxide for oxygen, and the list goes on. But what if science didn't exist, or humans didn't have the mental capacity to learn, relearn and discover? Would these apparently invisible properties not exist? No, of course they wouldn't. So how many more secrets is the universe hiding? Nobody knows, but an infinite number would be difficult to prove wrong. In fact, you could ask whether some of the Bible writers knew all about this 2,000 years ago. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. Remember, this was written 2,000 years ago. So what is the conclusion of this epic ramble? Well, let's just think for a moment about your specialist subject, natural selection. This was hidden from the world until Alfred Wallace and Charles Darwin came along. But have you ever thought that natural selection itself could be hiding something, or could be a clue to something else? We need to apply the same question which I asked a moment ago. If any sort of God exists, which do you think that he, she or it will be more interested in? The natural or the spiritual? The natural world or the spiritual world, if it exists? The answer doesn't take too much figuring out. Natural selection may just be a clue to something else which is hidden. So could natural selection be a clue to some form of spiritual selection? On the basis that God leaves clues around for us all to work out, rather than actual objective evidence, I rather think it could be. Remember what this video is about: evidence, and whether I can show that God does not deal in evidence but prefers to leave clues, signs and metaphors which we have been left to figure out. As to what spiritual selection is, or could be, I am not really interested in, as I will never live long enough to find out. But this 21st century parable may help. It is not in the Bible, but has a similar theme. At the end of the world, all the animals, insects, fish and birds that have ever lived are brought to life and have an audience with God for an hour or two. If they were given a higher intelligence and a voice, what would be their most important question? Probably, why did you cruelly wipe out virtually all of us and only leave a few? And God answers, natural selection. It was all written in your genetic code and environment. In the same scenario at the end of the world, all the humans that have ever lived are brought to life and stand before God. They ask the same question: why did you cruelly wipe out virtually all of us and only leave a few? God answers, spiritual selection. It was all written in the clues and signs around you. Some of you found them, and some of you didn't. Oh, and by the way, Jesus actually told you that spiritual selection is happening all the time, but you didn't see that either. Once, having been asked by the Pharisees when the kingdom of God would come, Jesus replied, "The kingdom of God does not come with your careful observation, nor will people say, Here it is, or there it is, because the kingdom of God is within you. So again, we have something which is hidden, which seems to confirm what I'm trying to say as the subject of this video. Just because we cannot see something, or we have no evidence for something, doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. The kingdom of God means many things to many people, but it is fairly rare to think of it as something which is hidden from view, or even hidden inside us. But think of it like this. Why do some people recover from illness and disease, and others don't, when each are given the same treatment and medication? And why does placebo exist? Presumably because a major part of the healing process is already hidden inside every one of us, and presumably because it's called believing in something which you cannot see, but does exist. And if you're still not convinced, what is the book of life supposed to be? Whatever it is open to interpretation, but one thing must be without dispute: it already exists. And if it already exists, then you, me, and everyone else are being, or have already been, spiritually selected, one way or the other.